So now we're going to take some of the ideas we've been talking about in this major key over this backing track within C major and see how we can put these techniques together to create a cohesive solo. Now again, this is a really short little statement, and we're trying to keep it simple enough that we can still learn it and get it under our fingers. Often when you listen to a guitar player, they're not really playing something so that it can be played back. And in that, they do a lot of things that might be hard to replicate or kind of, test our notions of time or aren't something that we might necessarily grab onto as a repeatable pattern. So this is on the simpler side of those things. But in doing that, we're trying to come up with, some licks that are in the vein of everything that we've been talking about, but are also rememberable and something that you're able to use in your own playing. So we're going to start off with our hammer-on and pull-off lick. We're playing the 5th fret of the D string with our first finger, hammering on to the 7th fret with our ring finger, pulling back off to the 5th fret of D, playing the 7th fret of A with a hammer-on, and then plucking the 5th fret of D. So that's our first one. Now we're going to shift that whole possession up, so this is pretty much like our previous lick, almost verbatim. We're just repeating this pattern. So now I'm on the 5th fret of the G string, hammering on to the 7th fret of the G, playing the 5th fret of the G, the 7th fret of the D, and then the 5th fret of G. You notice all of these also start on a downbeat, so I'm trying to give us a certain amount of space so that we can attack each one of these licks with a little bit of time. Right? And again, hammering on and pulling off in tandem can be tricky and difficult, so we could also just simplify and do something like this, where I'm just going 5, 7, 5 on D, and then letting it ring out. 5, 7, 5. But if you are starting to feel comfortable with the technique, you do want to, go for the full thing, we can do those full hammer-ons and pull-offs. So now we have this lick. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the 6th fret of the B string. I'm now incorporating a note that would actually be in the major scale here. So I'm playing the 6th fret of B, and then I'm pulling off onto the 5th fret of B. Then I'm going to bring my ring finger down to play the 7th fret of G. I'm going to go back up to that 5th fret of B, and then play the 5th fret of G. You'll notice all of these little licks just on their own can be used in, your solos. You could incorporate that into a solo and do your own thing with it, as well as that. And then our last one is we're essentially just going up and down our little scale position, again, using that slide. Now, if we wanted to, because we are incorporating a lot of techniques, I could just pick each one of those notes and not worry as much about the slide being what's kind of getting that note to ring out. So in this instance, I can just play 5, 7, 9, and then go back down to 7 and 5. So our first lick, then we're just going to repeat that up a string set. Now we have our different lick where we're pulling off from 6 to 5, fretting the 7th fret of G, 5 on B, 5 on G. And then we're just going to go up this little pattern, 5, 7, 9, 7, 5. So these are all simple little licks with a bunch of space in between them. And again, this isn't a famous solo by any means, so if you want to change something a little bit, or, you might want to focus on that first lick and that last lick, but you don't really care for that middle lick, that's still perfect, right? That's still something that you can do, and like I said, you're not required to learn any of this verbatim to be a good guitar player. The reason we're doing all these licks is so that you can find your own sound on the instrument as a melodic player and as an improviser. So I encourage you to try to play these licks as close as you can, but when it comes time to play the backing track, if you are a little off, if you change something here or there, as long as it sounds good to you, that can be part of your sound, and that's part of the joy of playing guitar and learning licks. So now that we've gotten a good foundation of how all of these little licks are working, let's hear it once more over the backing track.